Hello guys, returning for yet another video. I'm still sick today, so I didn't actually really plan to record anything because I was so exhausted, but now I'm trying anyway because I did kind of make that part 1 yesterday and I feel like I should finish it. Also, Magistus Choroso just got announced to be in Supreme Darkness, and I really wanted to make a video about that, actually. So I kind of want to finish this Estella combo thing before, so that's what I'm doing now. And I have this coffee in a Magic the Gathering mug. I used to play a ton of Magic the Gathering for like the past probably 10 years or something like that. But now I'm mainly playing Yu-Gi-Oh! Can maybe talk, maybe that's another video idea, honestly, talking about that. But yeah, so let me just get this coffee out of the way. Let me see if I can try to not tilt over the tripod again. So just some updates from last time, I guess, because I did sort of watch the video over and I did say a bunch of wrong things in the video, or not necessarily wrong things, but I kind of did some suboptimal things maybe, and yeah, I mean, it was like kind of like I said, it was like a half prepared combo, right? So I kind of knew in general terms what I wanted to do, and then when I just sort of filmed it, we found out a bunch of stuff, I guess, as we went along. For example, that it seemed really that that going for the deception first and then into the wanted after was just a much more clean line, which I did not expect initially. Like I mentioned in the video, I was aware that you can do it, but I didn't necessarily think that it would be so much cleaner in the end board. But I mean, that's a nice sort of learning lesson. And it did make me think that about why that is, right? And I guess it's not super complicated. It's just that you have the quick play spell to chain to the second activation of Hallowed Astamina, so that you sort of get your Ilia Sylvia out without really losing anything, right? Because you are going to use your wanted anyway, so you're not really losing any part of your end board, right? Whereas when we search the fusion spell and use that for the second activation of Hallowed Astamina, let me just actually find it. Yeah. Then like we changed the fusion spell here, then we did actually lose some part of our import, right? Like we did make the Saint Asmina, so we also added something to our import, but we did lose the fusion spell, right? That was not part of the import. And so it made me think, are there like other sinful spoils spells that you can chain to Hallowed Astamina, and in the same way as wanted, don't really, sorry, hiccup. And in the same way as wanted, not really lose any resources, because when you activate chain wanted here, you don't actually really lose anything. And I've actually realized that I have been doing that a bunch, like a long time ago, with, or not a long time ago, some months ago, with another Sinful Spoil spell, which is the Sorceress. Let me just see if I can find it here. Here it is. like the sussers of the sinful spoils. And I will also say that you can also do it with sort of sinful spoils of slumber. Like with this card right here. So, oh, you don't chain this obviously, but you just send it to the graveyard, and then because it can set itself back, you don't really lose any resources in that sense, right? So yeah, it's actually not like a new thing for me to do this. I just did it, I guess, kind of subconsciously the other times, and I think I want to be more aware of that and sort of make it explicit and say it out loud when that is what we're doing. So that was nice. And in regards to this card, I have a hard time seeing us playing this in Supreme Darkness, even though you totally can, right? There's nothing wrong with this card. I mean, except the fact that it's a trap and it's really only good going first. But when you're going first, it is a strong card. You add this of Ricio Lago, you send it to the graveyard for hallowed, you add it back, and it's actually pretty strong, right? So I don't think there's anything in like, if you were to play an extra Sinful Spell spell, because we found out already that you can do the sort of the same thing with just these two, right? So you don't actually need to play a third Sinful Spoil spell in order to do what we did. You just have to activate the Deception first and activate the Wanted later, right? So you don't actually need this in terms of just getting to resolve your Hallowed Asmina twice. You know, we want to make both Mauricio Lago and Ilia Silvia, and you can do that with just the ones that you're playing already, just the Sinful Spoil spells you're playing already. So in that way, I don't think that this and maybe I should also explain that this was in my current deck, like my current Rage of the Abyss deck, and the reason you can't really do this in Rage of the Abyss is that you always really start off with Diabellstar, right? And so you most of the time you already have used your Wanted just to get to the Deception, and you actually need the third Sinful spell to activate the Hallowed Asmina once again. But in the new post-Supreme Darkness combo, you don't necessarily at all start off with Diabellstar. You actually start off with, Asmina set, right? So it comes up much more often. But still, it is still nice to have an extra Sinful Spoil spell that for example, if you happen to draw Wanted and you want to start off with the Witch or something like that, or you are starting off with Deception, or I guess if you're starting up with Deception, you can just grab Wanted afterwards. So in that sense, it doesn't come up. So maybe I don't really know how often it comes up to have a third Sinful Spoil spell. And I'm saying a third, even though we're playing the fusion spell, and that is also a Sinful Spoil spell. So I guess I should say fourth, because this, you can't search this. This is the third Sinful Spoil spells that we're playing. But I guess what I'm meaning is third in the sense that you could just bin it for a Hallowed Asmina. And you can kind of do that. Like, you can chain the fusion spell, right? You can summon something from the hand, or you can perform a fusion summon. But you do also kind of want this to be part of your end board, so you have to think a bit about that. And we will see today when I show the the Elzette combo where you don't search woes, that you can actually use this on your own turn and get it back in rotation and set it for your opponent's turn. So it's not like chaining fusion spell to Hallowed Asmina is like, oh, that's so terrible, will never happen, because you lose this as in your endboard piece. You can actually get it back, and I'm not talking Diabell actually. I'll show you later how you can use this on your own turn and get it back again. So I still think that this is the third Sinful Spoil spell you will be playing. But I guess I'm also interested in these two as sort of, I guess, fourth. Maybe that's a bit too much, but I think that having sort of this like card you just spin to this Hallow without really losing a ton of resources is kind of nice. The other card that kind of does this is this Sorceress of the Sinful Spores, and if you don't know what it does, it targets an illusion or spellcaster on your field, and then once it resolves, you return that illusion or spellcaster to your hand, and you get to special summon an illusion or spellcaster from your graveyard or banishment. And this was actually in my original combos. I played this as exactly this sort of scenario where I had used my first Hello Dasmina, I added it back to the hand, activated it a second time, then I would chain the Sorceress and use that to send it to the graveyard for the Hello Dasmina and then get something back from the graveyard. Like, it's kind of like a Monster Reborn. You have to bounce something to a hand, but I would usually bounce the Black Witch, and when the Black Witch, because the Black Witch, as we have sort of seen yesterday, is not really useful for any synchro summoning or fusion summoning. So, and in this build I played at the time, there was not really any Link end board, maybe other than IP Masquerena. So I wouldn't actually mind at all having the Diabellstar in my hand. So I used Sorcerer's targeting the Diabellstar, returned it to my hand, summoned, I think it was just as Amina Elzette or some other thing from the graveyard, I can't remember, to extend with basically. And once the Diabellstar is in my hand, I can actually discard it during my opponent's turn. And at the time, I think that was for Dragoon, but you could also use the Fusion Spell Maiden Guardian Chimera using Diabellstar from your hand and as a material, and then have the Diabellstar trigger to summon itself back and add and set another Sinful spell. And I actually think that is a very real thing, right? And it kind of solves the issue of what the hell do we do with this Diabellstar who's just chilling on the field, right? Now, I have, in the meanwhile, sort of found another way to use that Diabellstar, and that is actually to make, where is it? Crush Sheep. And because I have tried, like I did a deep dive on this card, and I guess that's what I will be showing today. And then going into the new Abawa Ku, the Lightless Shadow Link 4 monster. But that's a whole other topic, I guess. I just wanted to preface this sort of discussion today with this thing I was thinking about after I recorded the video yesterday. So maybe when we do the combo, we can think about how would Sorceress look in this meta. And I guess I will make maybe a dedicated video about this card. I will say that the main reason I do like this card right now is it does summon back from banishment, and so it's a really good card in the grind game, right? Because it just summons your boss monsters back from the graveyard, but it also pretty good, I feel like, against the bestials. Because it can just summon something from banishment, so we're not maybe as weak to bestials if we have this card in our deck. So just something to consider. And I will, again, 14 minutes in the video, try to get on with actually the topic, which is, in the last part, we kind of had the Estella 1.5 combo, which was, let me just have some coffee. So the Estella 1.5 card combo was just Estella and any sand, and we used this amazing imperm that my girlfriend, or Tilde, drew for me. And what we did was that we just said, Estella. Oh, and I remember, I put my graveyard up here, or my deck up here, so I can have the graveyard down here, because my arms are not too long. So we just said, summon Estella, send this infinite impermanence to the graveyard, search, and we just search for the Sylvie. And we said, normal summon Sylvie effect, and we searched out the tails. And we talked a bit about how you can search the woes here. It doesn't really make too much a difference because we are out of draw range anyway, like we would have been drawled if they had it on resolution of the Elzette. So we say Ruziella sent this tails to the graveyard, and here last time we chose to use Ruziella to search out woes, and we showcased how that could sort of pan out, and it actually panned out pretty well. So today I want to sort of view the other options because it can of course search a ton of different things. You can search any White Forest card or a Lightspellcaster tuner. The generic Lightspellcaster tuner, I will say I don't really have anything that I feel is too relevant to add here. You could of course add an effect failure, but that will not really be relevant in this scenario because we are super low on resources here, and we're really just trying to get to see a lot of engine, right? So we'll not be adding effect failure. That's primarily something you do when you have everything, honestly. There isn't also not any other Lightspellcaster that I'm aware of that can make you extend as much as we can with either adding or as should I say, give as potent of an import as just adding woes. Or what we will do here is that we will add a Stella instead, sort of. So I guess last time was like, okay, we just take woes and we go for sort of a bit more minimalistic combo. Here we say, okay, let's grab a Stella and try to just wombo, I guess. So again, this combo is not resistant to Nibiru or any hand traps at all. It will die to a single hand trap, so we just assume our opponent doesn't have anything, because let's be real, if they had anything, we would not have gotten to this point. So the tails is getting set back, and we activate the tails, and we of course add the Azamina Elzette. You could also, of course, have searched Azamina Elzette with the Ruziella and added the Stella with the tails. I don't think there's too much of a difference. I guess I actually will say that I do prefer adding the Azamina Elzette with the Ruziella, so that you can still play even if the tails get interrupted. But yeah, we are kind of assuming that our opponent doesn't have any interruption. So yeah, I'm using this down here as my sort of hand. And so we special summon the Azamina Elzette, and we simply go into the Diabell. So this is all the same stuff as yesterday. We summon Diabell, and we have a Chilling 1, as Azamina Elzette. We have a Chilling 2 Diabell. The Diabell, we talked about it yesterday, it doesn't have anything amazing to add back, so we just add back the Infinite Impermanence. I guess actually in this combo, well, let's just see how it pan out. Again, this is sort of a half-prepared combo. And then with Azamina Elzette, we have the option between searching searching the Wanted or the Deception, like last time. And, well, let's see. I guess I will try to do it one way and then see how it pans out, and then try to do it the other way. Like, I'm obviously a bit more convinced about adding Deception right now because of the video yesterday. I will say that, yeah, let's just try adding Deception first. So we add Deception, we use Deception, and then here we can just tribute the Astella that we have in hand. So let's just get rid of this Astella. And then we search out our Hallowed. I don't know if that shocked you that we got rid of the Astella, but maybe you can see now that we are not trying to summon it from hand, but we're trying to get it back from the graveyard. Maybe that was pretty obvious, I don't know. So and I realize now that I should not summon the Diabell in this zone, so I'm just moving it over here. We use a Hello Desmina, or at least I don't think I should. I can't actually remember, because we are going for the Crush Shape here. We reveal our Murcielago, we summon it in this zone over here, and we get a trigger on the Murcielago, and we will add the wanted. And then we will say, you know, hello Dasmina, shuffle back the Asmina Elzette to add back itself. And so here, I think that we just go ahead and make the Omni, or the Ilia Sylvia. I should address her by her actual name, instead of just like an Omni. She's more than that, actually. She also makes Asmina monsters do double damage in battle. Once again, I'm kind of making this out here. I think last time we could actually have made this in the extra monster zone, because we didn't do any link plays, but here we definitely will do some link plays. So we added out the Bellstar, and we are now ready to summon out our Diabellstar. So we just discard this and set this down, and here we will add the fusion spell. Or not add, we will actually have to set it, right? So here I will do something that seems a bit crazy. I'm actually gonna link Diabell off. So again, I don't know if this is the optimal way of doing it, but what we're trying to do here is basically just, we set up the Crush Shape here, and we, let's see, it's actually, I can't even really see the Crush Shape, oh well. We need to set up the Crush Shape with a fusion monster pointing to it, so that when a monster is special summoned to this zone, we will get its effect to summon back a level 4 or lower monster from the graveyard. And the only two monsters we could have used to make the Crush Shape without you know, getting rid of our Omni or getting rid of fusion monster were these two, right? And we could also have summoned back Sylvie from the graveyard, and use that as a material, but that is actually the summon we are doing right now to trigger the Crush Shape. So we are summoning back the Reciella and summoning this monster here. And since the Crush Shape is pointing to a fusion, we'll get the trigger to summon a level 4 low monster from our graveyard, and that will of course be the Astellar. And so we summon it here. And now we do have this fusion spell set that we will send for cost for Astellar to summon a light spell cost tuner from the deck. And this is where I'm actually going to pull out Cartesia, because I talked about Cartesia in the last video. I've been thinking about it since. Let me see if I can find her. There she is. Like, what you could do here is you could just summon Cartesia out of the deck, and you know, the other option would be Rusha. But I'm a bit interested to see how this develops if we choose this Cartesia. In principle, there should not be anything that Cartesia can't do that Rusha could do, other than the draw 1 effect, which we're maybe not interested in here because we are very low on resources. So let's just see if her fusion, her fusion summoning ability will come up. So we have a trigger in the graveyard to set the fusion spell face down, and now we are in this position right here. And what are our goals now, right? So we have a goal of getting the Diabell back on the field. And one way to do that, we saw last time, was if we can summon Saint Asmina, then Saint Asmina can summon more Regina, and more Regina can summon out Diabell from the graveyard. Because more Regina has an ignition effect that lets us summon any illusion monster from the graveyard. Another way is to use a Boa Aku, because she has an ability where you discard a card from hand to special summon a light or dark monster from the graveyard, right? So we have two ways of getting her back, and our resources in the graveyard are kind of emptied out. We have still our wanted activation, but we don't have any Sylvie summoned back yet. So basically, to get to Asamina, we need a synchro on the board, and so we can use these two and make a synchro. To make the Boa Aku, we just need to make a Fiend link 2, right? And that will just be Nightmare Phoenix for now. But it just has to be any Fiend link 2, so that we can use it and Crush Heap to make a Boa. And we can use the Wanted in the graveyard to get a draw in order to be able to activate the Boa Aku effect to summon back Diabell. So yeah, so different options here. I feel like the thing I normally go for here is a Muddy Mud Dragon, and then use Muddy Mud Dragon and Murcielago to make Saint Asamina. That will also have some other nice applications that we can look at. Maybe I'll just do that for now, since this is sort of the... Okay, this is the kind of combo that I did ahead of schedule, right? So I might know how this should resolve. So we use Muddy Mud Dragon here, and we fusion these two. We could also have used Khadijah, I guess, but it doesn't really matter. We just use Muddy Mud Dragon's effect. Oh, well, it could actually matter. Let's use... No, it doesn't matter, I think. Let's use Muddy Mud Dragon's effect and summon out the Saint Asamina. And then now we can use Saint Asamina, summon out the Moarkina. And here I will actually show you something else. This is like a cool trick I found. I don't know how relevant it will be, but I do think it is pretty neat. So we're actually going to summon out Murcielago with Moarkina's ability. And it sounds a bit crazy, but it's because Murcielago has an effect that says that if it is destroyed, then you can search a Sinful Spoil spell card from your deck. So if we say wanted here, activate, and target the Deception to put it on the bottom of the deck and draw a card, then we will actually be able to trigger our Moarkina and use it as Chainlink 2 to pop 2 cards on the field. And you can we can target this card. We could also target this card, because if Ilia Sylvia gets destroyed, you can actually set a Sinful Spoil spell card, trap card, sorry. So, you know, if you're playing this card, maybe you could do that, but I think it's a bit dangerous to get rid of the Omni Negate that is currently protecting us from Nibiru. So I'm not too keen on popping Ilia Sylvia to search a trap card, but I do like popping Murcielago. So we'll pop her in response, then our wanted will trigger, and we'll just give this a shuffle. It shouldn't really matter for the combo what we are looking to draw. But, you know, something relevant would be nice, I guess. I don't know if I'm gonna take it into consideration, though. We put the Deception on the bottom, and we draw a Blackbird Laughs. Hey, that's pretty nice. Then our Murcielago will trigger in the new chain. And, let me actually move the camera a bit to the side, yeah. And search a Sinful Spoils spell card. And I guess our options here are pretty limited, because we're playing this very basic version. We already have the fusion spell set here, so all we really can do is Deception and Wanted, right? So this is maybe also a point where you would search the Sorceress, because we just needed to discard, basically. And the Sorceress will set itself back if you discard it. And the Sorceress is like a quick effect monster reborn from the graveyard or banishment, right? great, you have to bounce something back to your hand. But it can still be pretty powerful because something like, Silvera, the Book of Eclipse, is not once per turn. So if you can get it to the graveyard, you can use it again to summon back here. Maybe they use like Droplet on the Omni Negate or something, so you can't use it. Or they out some of your cards before you can use it, and then you can get it back with this card and stuff like that. So I do feel like it is providing something meaningful to the end board if you add this card. But let's just assume that we're just adding a Deception here. Just because we don't really play anything else in this build. And we did happen to draw the Black Goat Lad, so I guess we might as well just use it. And so here we are, let's see. Yeah, okay, so the point we're at here is that we're trying to make a boa. And this is where we kind of are missing a... we are missing a body. And I do see now that we needed to summon the Rusha and not the Katisha, because we have not used the Astella effect to summon itself back when a monster is sent to the graveyard, or when spell trap is sent to the graveyard to activate a monster effect. So let's just retcon this Katisha for now. Although there might be other ways of doing it, right? But let's just say that it was the Rusha that we summoned here. And let's just say that we maybe did not draw the Black Goat Laughs. So we activate our Deception of the Sinful Spells just for the fact so it was face up. And so it will add itself back in the end phase. And we use Rusha here to send a spell trap to the graveyard in order to draw a card. Here. And it was Fuvalos. And, luckily a board does not need to discard any particular type of card, so it doesn't really matter what we draw here. But then, our Astella will trigger. Because remember, when we first summoned her back from the graveyard, it was actually using Cross Sheep, so she has never triggered her own graveyard summon effect. And then we do these two here, and we make a Nightmare Phoenix, and we just link these two off for a boa. And we use the effect, and I guess we're discarding this Mochami for Alice here. To banish herself and to summon back the Dabel from the graveyard. And then during the end phase, we will get to set back our Deception face down, unfortunately, and Aboa will come back here. So this is sort of our import, and I'm not counting this Black Goat Laughs. It could have been any card we drew here, right? So I wouldn't really say that I wouldn't count it towards our import, but just that we do have one random card in hand that we can use for the discard effect here of a bow. So let's examine this import, I guess. And the first thing I notice is, as always, our field is very clogged. We don't have woes right now, so in that sense it doesn't really matter. We do have Diabell, and we can't actually activate our Diabell right now. I will also point out that we couldn't really have used our extra monster zone for anything, because that needed to be the link monsters, and she does not summon back to the extra monster zone. So what are we looking at here? Basically, we are looking at trying to get maybe our Omni Negate off pretty early on. Then we are sort of looking at or the Omni, or maybe the Abao. So the Abao can also discard a card to pop a card on the field. So, maybe that's not super terrible, right? You can just, discard a card and pop a card on the field. I don't think she tags out if you do that, though. And what I want to do with her is primarily to wait until we have our Silvera in the graveyard to still get the double book. So let's say we are kind of forced to use our Omni negation here pretty early. So we use the Omni, and maybe we chain this to pop 2 cards on the field if we lined it up in such a nice way. Then we can sort of say, okay, let's do Diabell. We can send our Deception to the graveyard and summon out our book here. And of course, then we'll get our Estella add back, and we would also get to add back our Elzette add back, and would also get to summon out Estella if it weren't for the fact that we did not have any space. And so here we, I guess, are looking pretty much to activate our Sinful Spoils of the White Forest, and use our Silvera and our Elzette in hand, and then if we haven't used the Moragina, then maybe on the Moragina, or maybe just the Diabell or the Saint Asmina, I guess, if the Saint Asmina is not super useful, to make our Guardian Chimera here, and we get a draw and a pop too, and then we are interested in using our Boa Aku to banish herself and summon out the book a second time, so that we still sort of get two books. And okay, so when we are looking at, when I'm just thinking about this, compared to Searching Woes, there's actually not too much of a difference. But the main difference, I guess, is that we did get to draw 2 cards here. We did get to add back our Deception so that we had it as a material for Diabell. Remember last time we did not actually have any spell trap to set to the graveyard for Diabell, so I sort of just assumed that we had it. Then also we got our Boa Aku in rotation, which she comes back every turn unless you summon something from the graveyard. So if, for example, we live this turn, Boa Aku will come back. She will do her standby phase effect, where she will count the number of different monster types in our graveyard, which is illusions, beasts, and fiends. So we are actually at 4 different types here, and even 5 with dragon, and even I guess 6 with Fuwalas. And she'll basically do a sort of Pot of Prosperity thing, where we get to look at the top 6. We draw 6 cards, and we will have to put 6 cards back, but we still draw 1 for turn. So basically means that we look at the top 7 cards and pick our favorite one for our draw per turn. That's how I like to see it. And that's obviously very powerful. And then you can use her on our own turn to summon back, for example, the Diabell or the Ilia Sylvia to get an Omni instantly online. So I do think that a Boa Aku has a lot of value in a grindy matchup, right? Where you're going for multiple turns and you don't expect the game to be over super quick. She just, because we have a lot of really nice things to shuffle, to summon, resummon. And if some of this whole thing dies, we cannot resummon the Moragina because she was not properly summoned, but we can summon back Asmina, Saint Asmina, and Silvera, and also the Guardian Chimera, I guess, but I don't know why we would do that. But yeah, so compared to the Searching Woes thing, we still get 2 books, right, because of a Boa. I will say that it's not nice when we have our field clogged up as much as we did, and maybe summoning Saint Asmina and Moragina should be sort of maybe not done, because what this really does is that, like in broad terms, is this doing this made us search a Sinful Spoil spell. Like, that was pretty much it. We got this, it summoned this summoned Mauricio Lago from the graveyard. We used our wand, this popped the Mauricio Lago, and we could use our Mauricio Lago effect to search a Sinful Spoil spell card. And I do actually think that is pretty valuable, even though these cards maybe take up a bit of space. They are still interactions in your opponent's turn, right? Saint Asmina is more of a floodgate rather than like any quick effect or something like that. And then the Moragina, maybe sometimes a bit tough to trigger, but we have multiple points where we could do it here. We have the Omni, we also have the Fusion spell. Yeah, so I do think that the end board here, where you add a Stella, is stronger overall. Of course, it's also a lot more steps. But it doesn't really require anything more of your deck. Like, apart from that, you need to run the Aboa Coup package, right? You need, Crush Ship is a great card anyways, so the Aboa Coup is more like an excuse to use the Crush Ship for something after we've used its graveyard resummon effect. I will also say that the Crush Ship summon back Stella is maybe not necessary if you have some other way of sending a spell trap to the graveyard so that you can trigger a Stella with her own effect, right? But we didn't have that in this combo, so that's why we needed the Crush Ship to summon her back. Alternatively, we could have used the Sorceress of the Sinful Spoils to summon her back from the graveyard by returning the Bellstar to our hand. And maybe that is what I'm gonna try now, because sort of from a, okay, so if you just look at like what does this combo, it obviously seems a bit stronger than the adding woes combo, because we did get a lot more bodies, a lot more cards in rotation, right? We have both Rusha and Estella in rotation. We did get the Aboa in rotation, which enabled us to still get double books, and we did also get the Deception add back during the end phase. And we did also get 2 draws instead of 1, because we also got a draw off of Rusha, right? So in general, I would say that is a stronger combo. Of course, maybe a bit more vulnerable. I don't know, because usually I would say that the play that add woes and just sets woes is more resilient to interruption. But it's so hard to say, because these are so, like, it's so much a toy example, right? It's so hard to say what actually would be better to do in a real game, and that would probably be very dependent on your opponent's strategy as well. But yeah, that was sort of my I guess first draft of the Elzette 1.5 combo, where you add a Stella instead of woes. Now I feel like I'm feeling in the mood for getting a bit experimental. I think I want to try to add this card instead, and see how the combo changes, and if we even need to go into some of the link stuff, because that is of course something that the combo, sort of, if you can say, the downside of the combo is not really in the gameplay aspect, but more in the deck building sense, in that we kind of needed the Crush Ship and Nightmare Phoenix and the Aboa to be able to do this. And it would be interesting to see what you could even make if you didn't have that. Of course, you could also play some other package, right? It's basically just, hey, we need some sort of way to convert bodies into a stronger end board. You could also play maybe Dragoon, right? Because we were in a scenario here where I think we would have been able to make Dragoon. I'm not totally sure, but you could add Albion, maybe also Lubellion and a Dragoon, and you could do that instead. And You could also, maybe there's some other package with just, stronger end board in your extra deck, but overall, like, if you didn't do that, if you hadn't knows like stronger pushes in your extra deck for the end board, then you'd have to look, okay, how can we use these buddies to make a more impactful end board with only the sort of in-engine extra deck monsters, and that I feel is a bit tough, right? Because we could make this on our Silvera on our own turn and have it chill in the graveyard. That could maybe be decent, especially if we added the Sorceress instead. But overall, I'm not seeing too many cards that we could have extended with. We had already made Risiela, have already made the Diabel, have already made Saint Asamina. So the question is really, what do you use those extra buddies for? And this is just what I've come up with, being a nice, 3 cards here. And the start of the show is really Crush Sheep, right? Because that actually can provide a lot of value, and it played a crucial role right here, right? We wouldn't be able to do this without Crush Sheep. Just a final mention on Katisha, I guess, or not final necessarily, but just a mention of her. In this combo, I guess we found out that we needed the Rusha to be able to trigger the Estella in the grave because we needed an extra body. Maybe if we hadn't been forced to use the Diabel as a link material for Crush Sheep, right? So we had the Diabel on the field, we wouldn't have needed to go into Muddy Mud Dragon, and we would have that extra body, and then we could have used Katisha instead to fusion summon Diabel and move Isilago into Saint Asmina. So I will not rule this out. Maybe in the combo we're doing right now with the Sorceress, then this will come up. I'm very excited to see it. I'm still not like totally... I still kind of think this might have a home, but it's just maybe a bit too niche. I don't know, because obviously you will not get to see this when you open Estella or when you start with Estella. So it's really just for those games where you start with Elzette or Sylvie and you somehow get to Estella like we did right here, and you can summon her off of Estella. But let's see. I'm actually very eager to try it. So let's just roll back a bit. Let's just say that we have our Infinite Impermanence in the graveyard. We have... Where is our Elzette actually? Did I put her into the extra deck? No, I did not. Maybe I shoved her back or something. Oh, okay, let's just start from new with our Elzette. There we go. And we say Elzette, summon her out. I like this tone for Elzette. And we add the Sylvie. We normal summon the Sylvie. We go into Tails. And we use the Sylvie and the Elzette for a Risiela play here. And we send the Tails for cost. And I guess this time I will add the Asamina set with the Risiela effect. I think that's better, actually. It's the more crucial card, so let's add it first. And then we get our Tails, add back here. We summon our Asamina set. We synchro these two into a Diabel. Let's put her here. I still don't know if we make the Crush Sheep or not. The Diabel effect, or the Asamina set chaining 1, Diabel effect chaining 2. Let's add back the Infinite Impermanence. And this time we will search the Wanted instead. And as a sort of final part of the setup, we activate our tails and add our Estella. Okay, so the reason I added wanted this time instead of adding deception is that since we know we are going to search the sorceress, sinful spots of sorceress with Murcielago, we still want this in rotation, right, to get our draw one. So I'll just start off here with the wanted to add our Diabell Star, and then here we could be tempted to send our Estella to the graveyard, but we still need a monster to tribute for deception, and we don't want to tribute our Black Witch this time because we actually do want some sort of non-essential monster on the field to be able to put back into our hand with Sorceress. So I'm just gonna send my Infinite Impermanence to the graveyard to summon out Diabell Star. You could maybe also use Sylvie in the grave to summon itself back and then bounce that back to the hand instead of Diabell. But I think that Diabell is more valuable in the hand. I guess it depends on do we end up missing an extra body or not? Because if we have an extra body too much, then we could definitely have used our Sylvie here and kept our Infinite Impermanence so that we would be able to end on the Infinite Impermanence. But I just have a feeling that we will not be able to end on the Infinite Impermanence. So let's just see how it will pan out. Our Diabell Star effect will resolve and set the Deception. And here we activate Deception and we tribute our Stella from the graveyard. And we go ahead and add the Hallowed Astamina. So here. And we activate the Hallowed Astamina here. And we summon out the... let's see. The Murcielago. And we summon her over here. And we have these two sent to the graveyard. And here, I guess it's not actually in the deck, so I'll just add it from outside the game. Here we add the Sorceress, I guess. And then we will use Hallowed Asmina's effect in the graveyard. And we will shuffle back the Astamina Elzette here. And we'll put this back, and then I guess here, okay, let's just take a quick look at the field here. So again, we are in a position where we could summon back the Sylvie from our graveyard and use her with maybe Diabell to make Crush Sheep and then get something back with Crush Sheep. Yeah, let's try to see what happens if we just do it like sort of the straight ahead way, and there we activate Hallowed Astamina and we chain Sorceress targeting the Diabell Star. So we go add this back to hand, and I think I see a problem. We summon out the Estella, and we of course summon out our Ilia Sylvia here. And I don't know if you see it, but I do see it. We are out of spells and traps to send for cost. Where did it go wrong? Well, last time we had the fusion spell to send for cost. This time we do not have that. Yeah, so I'm guessing what was even our idea with doing this? So the whole idea was to not use Diabell as a link material for Crush Sheep, and rather than that, get back Estella by using the Sorceress. However, of course, we are in a situation right now where we don't actually have any spell trap to send. I do recall now that we could have actually ended up with our Imperm in our hand instead of having to send it, because we were in a situation where we could have summoned back the Sylvie and then used the Sylvie as the cause to summon the Black Witch. And if we did that, then we did not have to use our infinite impermanence in hand. So let's say we did that, we have used our Sylvie effect, and we have shuffled back to Risiella, and now we are in the similar position, but now we have the infinite impermanence in hand. And I don't know if this will even turn out to be any smarter than the other line, but let's say we send it to the graveyard here, and I'm gonna try to summon Katisha again, because right now we can actually use Katisha here to summon Saint Asamina. Right, so we do get to use Katisha effect to fusion summon, use these two here, and summon out the Saint Asamina. And I'm just gonna put her there because I'm not sure we're doing any link plays, but I will move her if we are. And so we then can maybe see a line here where we say summon out Morgana. And then, okay, so, okay, hold on, wait a bit. Let's backtrack, because we can summon out Diabell here. We can summon out Diabell here. And then we would sort of end on this, and that would not be super good. We don't have any spells or traps even set. So let's just say that we do not... we fusion summon the Saint Asamina here, and we maybe try to do some link plays. Because we can use these two here as material to go into Cross Sheep. And then we can use our Saint Asamina effect here to summon out our Morgana. And we can use the Morgana here to summon out our Murcielago. And then we get a trigger from the Cross Sheep to summon back a level 4. And okay, I'm seeing now here that we still have not used the Estella add back here, but I think we actually will get to do that. Maybe. So we say, let's summon out Katisha again. And then we say we do the wanted trick. So here we say wanted, and we target Sorceress here to put it on the bottom of the deck and draw a card. And then we chain the Morgana to pop the Murcielago. And since this is not actually sleeved, I will just put it here, and let's see what we draw, right? It shouldn't be something that changes our combo. We will just draw a random card. Great. For Alice, then Murcielago will trigger in the graveyard here. And this is where we would search our fusion spell. So here we want to go into a boar, a coup. However, we are missing a body. So we could have, if we had a way to discard here, if we had a way to discard or to send something, spell and traps to the graveyard to activate a monster effect, we could get back to Estella. The problem is that that will only happen if we get to the Aboa, right? So, okay. So let's just say that we used the Morgana, I guess. I do think Saint Asamina is maybe a bit more valuable on the field. However, I'm not entirely sure, actually. No, let's keep the Morgana, because we can actually summon back the Saint Asamina using a Boa Aku on our opponent's turn. So let's say we use those two to do that, and we say these two into a Boa Aku. Now we use her effect. we banish ourselves and discard the sinful spells of the White Forest in order to summon out our Dibble. Let me just put it over here, I guess, from the graveyard. Then we have a Sinful Spoils of the White Forest trigger, and then a Stellar trigger. And we will, I guess, sort of randomly summon out the Stellar. It should be, this, of course, is kind of a red flag that this is just not being used for anything. And then during the end phase, let's see, we do have the Elzette with the Deception, and then we also do have the Cartesia add back because a fusion monster was sent to the graveyard this turn. So we do get to add it here to our hand. And then, of course, Aboa will come back. So let's look at this. And so this whole thing was sort of the same thing as before, except we used Sorcerers of the Sinful Spoils instead of making the Crushed Sheep in order to get back a Stellar. And so the differences are, we don't have Saint Desamina on that board. The main difference, instead we have this, which is pretty useless. Other than that, we have these two set on the field, and we do have a sort of what do you say, a 3 cards in hand here. So our Guardian Chimera is pretty strong here, right? Our Guardian Chimera here is pretty strong. You could also, you could make Guardian Chimera. You could also send this to the graveyard with a Boa, and you could summon her back, and you could her fusion spell is a quick effect, so you can maybe play some, I don't know, an extra Saint Desamina, I don't know, and you could actually use Cartesia as a sort of an endboard piece, right? So it would be a lot nicer if this was our endboard piece, right? Because then we could have used Cartesia sort of to quick fusion, and we could maybe have made our Saint Desamina again here, or something like that, and maybe some other fusion that I'm not really aware of. We could make Grand Guignol, I guess, and I have no idea what that would even do, but it's pretty interesting. But alas, that's not how our endboard looked. It looked like this. We also have the Elzette hand, and we talked about that's pretty nice to use that as material for Guardian Chimera, because then you can summon her back and get an extra Sinful Spoil spell in rotation. Yeah. Apart from that, it looks a bit like the same thing, except worse, because we have the Stella on the field instead of the Saint Desamina. However, we do have 2 extra cards in hand that might or might not be relevant. Alright, so I think maybe I'm just gonna end it here. I could definitely just continue to do this, but I think maybe I will have to think a bit more and lab a bit out myself if this card is worth it, and if there's something more than this that you can do with this card. We kind of used it in a very naive sense where we just activated, right? So we never really got the second part of its effect, right? Never really got to send it for cost to sort of set itself back. So it didn't really become part of our end piece or our end board. So yeah, and maybe we could sort of made a Crush Sheep anyway. Like with this, still have made Crush Sheep and maybe have ended on something similar or even better if we use the Dibble because we did end up using the diabell as a fusion material anyway, to make Saint Asamina. Maybe it's just more efficient to make a Mighty Mud Dragon and use that as the synchro for Saint Asamina. Maybe it's more efficient to not go into Saint Asamina at all and actually just end on the fusion spell and make Saint Asamina with the fusion spell. The only reason I really like making Saint Asamina on my own turn, I guess, is that we do get the add back with more Regina, and as we have seen, the summoning of a Muricielago from the graveyard and then popping it at the same time, it can actually just get you back the fusion spell. Like, even if you use the fusion spell to summon Saint Asamina, you could do the whole thing we talked about and shuffle the fusion spell back into your deck with Wanted, and then add it with Muricielago's effect again and just end on it. So it does feel like making Saint Asamina when you know you're not, being interrupted, has very little drawback. You will get, if you use the fusion spell, you can probably get the fusion spell back with that sequence right here, right? All it requires really is that you have Wanted in the graveyard and you have Muricielago in the graveyard. If you did not use the fusion spell and you just have the fusion spell, then you will get to search another Sinful Spoils card, like maybe an extra Deception to use it as an end-board piece, or maybe something like Sorceress of the Sinful Spoils, which could also be a very interesting end-board piece, right? So in general, I think it's worth it to make Saint Asamina on our own turn. It's just the question of, do we use the diabell as the material, or do we use a Muddy as a material, or maybe some other level 6 synchro, or maybe we just use summon another White Forest synchro and use Katisha as like our fusion spell, or maybe we don't shuffle back the Asamina Elzette to get our Hallowed back, right? Because that's what we have been doing all this time. And maybe we summon Asamina Elzette back from the graveyard with Crush Sheep instead of Estella, and then we can maybe use her effect to fusion summon. There's just a ton of different ways of doing it. I don't know which one is best. I do think it was interesting to explore the applicabilities of Katisha. I do think that she could actually be like she's also just a valuable, like a value engine in this deck, because if Fusion Monster being sent to the graveyard is her trigger to add back during the end phase, and that just happens a lot in our deck, right? So she will kind of just come back all the time. The only thing is that her, her fusion ability has to summon a level 8 or higher, so you can't make our level 6 Asaminas. But maybe you could play something like some other kind of fusion in your extra deck. I'm also a bit afraid that this Katisha is like over-engineering, right? Maybe we could have just, we were summoning the Katisha from the deck, and we were using her ability to summon out Saint Asamina. Maybe we could just have summoned Rukia, went into Mighty Mud Dragon, and done the same thing, and maybe that would be like just as good, right? You use 2 buddies to make Mighty Mud Dragon, and then you use Muddy and remove Muricielago to make Saint Asamina, and it seems like it's more costly. But if you do that, you also have to remember you don't have to worry about getting back the diabell, right? Because that's all our headaches, right? It's just like, oh, we sent the diabell to the graveyard as a fusion material. How do we get it back? And if you just make Mighty Mud Dragon and you use that, you don't have to worry about getting diabell back. But then again, that's more bodies you need to use. Maybe that means that you won't get to the Aboa, and it doesn't really matter to send the diabell to the graveyard for cost if you can just make a Boa and get her back, right? Then that's actually optimal, maybe. So ton of different options. Yeah. I do like Sorcerers of the Sinful Spoils in like this bestial meta, but I am not actually sure that it was. It did not seem like the version where we used Sorcerers was any better than the previous version where we just used where we just used Wanted and went into the Crush Sheep. Apart from the fact that we get these two on the hand, and I do really like the fact that the idea of having Dibasa on the hand. I do think that is actually pretty cool. So yeah, I don't know. But I think I will end the recording for now and just upload this and maybe make a part 3. I don't know. Maybe I'll do some labbing with Cartesia and Sorcerers of the Sinful Spoils. Maybe I'll try to do this combo without a boa. And yeah, thanks for watching. I guess if anyone did, I guess. Goodbye.